and I opened them and I was like, wait a minute, these are magic cards. Giant like
Oh
Skittles, like
yeah.
abomination sort of thing. Like I could hear them like screaming, help me. There's someone on the left side. Get him, get him, get him.
How's it going? Welcome to Chats with Spencer. For interviews just like this one, full of fun and interesting questions, subscribe. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. My guest this week is Anuraag, a Magic the Gathering streamer, primarily in the Legacy format, focusing on the Miracles archetype. I spoke to him back in December, and we had a blast just chatting about Magic, life, and everything else. So sit back and enjoy my interview with Anuraag. Thanks for being here. I know it's a holiday season, so things are busy, so I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I know. Likewise, I was kind of nervous because I mean, December 24th, 2 p.m. My schedule. I'll be honest with you. My schedule these past few days has been totally whack. I think when I don't have to like clock in at like 9 a.m. every day or whatever, I tend to do crazy things. Like last night, I went to bed at 7:30. I was working on my stream stuff, and I was like, oh God, I got to get to sleep so I can wake up in time for this. So a lot of stuff going on here, but yeah, rocking it. Let's go.
Awesome. So for the first kind of question, or what you can tell us, is just, can you give us a bit of background information on yourself? So maybe some of the viewers who aren't quite familiar with your work, and maybe even just like a bit about your background as a kid. I know you grew up in Houston, so maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know, something about Houston.
Yeah, sounds good. So great intro already. I stream on Twitch a lot. I stream Legacy specifically, so it's like a niche format in the Magic the Gathering category, which is it's been very fun. It's definitely an interesting experience. Obviously, it's not my full-time job. It's actually really hard. Yeah, we could talk about that if not, whatever. But I also am a consultant for IBM, so project manager for a small 3-person team, which is kind of exciting, also a little bit stressful. So, just being responsible for somebody else. I stream every day at twitch.tv/onzmtg. I'm on day 324 now out of, I guess, 365. When you're this close, might as well. But yeah, it's definitely been fun. Like you mentioned, I did grow up in Houston. I went to college in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, and then I moved to DC, where I met a large portion of the Legacy community, which was pretty sweet. In terms of growing up, let's see. I did grow up in Houston. I have one younger brother, one younger sister. We all, just sort of hung out together. I don't know if it was like really like that exciting of a childhood, but maybe it was. But like I grew up I was like the first generation for my family. They came in from Northeast India, so definitely like didn't have your I don't know, just like I want to say like average American upbringing, but maybe more so your average Asian American upbringing, if that makes sense.
So do you have any, maybe like a story that kind of like sums up what kind of kid you were, or just, you can just tell us what kind of kid you were?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's kind of a grim picture here, but a lot of my energy went into sort of just like academics. I mean, like I still had a lot of fun here. My parents were super sweet, and honestly, like I told my wife this story, like where my mom had no idea, like my hobbies or like the difference between like the card games that I was playing at the time, right? So when I was a younger kid, I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, and she kind of did the thing where like she bought packs, and I opened them, and I was like, wait a minute, these are Magic cards, right? So sort of just like foreshadowing to the future, but yeah, like it was a very heavy emphasis on like academics. I didn't really go out too much and hang out too much outside. Just sort of that like closed Indian culture kind of deal. But I did sort of convert that into like a very competitive drive where, because that was mostly all I was doing, in my spare time, I I definitely valued it highly, and I definitely like looked after like that first place prize a lot in these competitive math tournaments that I would partake in. Like I mean, like I would sit down for hours and like learn tricks and tips and all this sort of stuff. Like it was pretty crazy. My dad would basically like sit down on the side of the table and he'd be like, all right, let's go through the theory behind how to do this. Like this thing or that thing, and I just go after it. You know what I mean? And obviously like that's had a huge impact on just like me as a person now, just shaping like both my standards, like my day to day, like how I try to get things done, and then also just like things like my work ethic, which are questionable in some forms and fashions, but also very good in other ways.
So you're obviously really passionate about Magic and especially Legacy, but I'm just wondering, like, when you're not streaming, you're not playing Magic, what do you like to do with your time?
Oh yeah. I like playing video games. I definitely do. So right now I'm just like kind of in the middle of Cyberpunk. Juggling that with a bunch of other things. So I haven't like actually finished it yet, but working on it. Also like playing like, League of Legends, like Apex Legends. Not nothing. I'm not like very good at these sort of games, but they are that way for me to like kick back, relax, and sort of, just like hang out with a bunch of friends and things like that. And my wife plays a lot of these games too, so it's nice, like, after she comes back from work, it's one of the ways that we can sort of, I guess, spend time together. Just screaming at each other. There's someone on the left side. Get him, kind of deal.
So I heard on another interview of yours, you mentioned that Fire Emblem was maybe like one of the first games that really got you into gaming. But can you like think of some other games in your childhood that had an impact on you? Maybe really got you into a certain genre or something along that line.
Yeah, so Phoenix, right, the Ace Attorney series was actually just, I think that might just be my like rank one video game series. So that's sort of a court simulation video game where you play the defendant, not defendant, you play the defense attorney side of things. There's a guilty party, and then you have to battle against the prosecution, right? So the overall theme here, you might see it, is that like I like a lot of like, puzzle game strategy thinking, that sort of stuff, and that's exactly what this was, where you sort of it's like a mystery, right? You have to figure out like how to protect whoever your client is, and like you present clues back and forth. I really like the humor. It's extremely lighthearted. They've got lots of puns, so if you're about that. And I think, yeah, even to this day, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the latest one came out, and I still played it. And there are a couple exclusives in Japan that I'm hoping that'll one day get ported over. Looking forward to that as well.
So yeah, and I heard that sounds like from this answer, but I've also heard before you're kind of like you enjoy Nintendo games quite a bit. But what's your favorite game outside of the Nintendo like platform? I guess.
Ooh, tricky, tricky, tricky. Yeah, I mean, I maybe I can like narrow it down to 2020. My favorite non-Nintendo game from 2020 was The Last of Us Part 2. It's one of those games where I don't really binge games necessarily. I can only play for like 3 4 hours at a time before, just having to get up and do some other stuff. But this game, like I did a solid like 15 hour just like nonstop, pick up my controller, don't put it down till the game finishes, um, run, and it was just mind-bogglingly amazing. I love the storyline. I know that's kind of a controversial topic, but it meant a lot of different things to me, and like still playing the game and everything like that. It was really good. And I think it also won Game of the Year this year, right? So kind of
Yeah, I did.
yeah, kind of happy that sort of people are thinking or feeling the same way that I do.
Yeah, that was one of those games where I just as soon as I started watching like a stream, anybody playing it, so cinematic, very engaging. It's like a live action movie kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
crazy.
Speaking of live action movies, I'm going to give the runner up award to the newest God of War. And I'm going to throw in something out there, which is that I didn't even actually play this game. I watched it all on Twitch, YouTube, where I could fill in the gaps. And it was that fun to watch that, like, the next one, I know I'm going to play it for sure. But yeah, it's crazy when you can like literally watch a game and you're having just as much fun as playing it, and sort of like the storytelling and all that sort of stuff, the watching the combat, it was awesome. Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of just the appeal of Twitch too, right? Watching somebody like yourself playing Magic, it's as fun as playing Magic, right? So it's just like that connection
Yeah,
that you get.
yeah, for sure. I think that's part of the one of the reasons why I think like Twitch as a concept is like super solid, and why it works is because you at the end of the day are uh working with someone else, you're developing a relationship with someone else, and it's just like games and social activities are much more fun to do when you're doing it with somebody else. You know what I mean? Obviously, like there's certain things that you want to do solo, but like when you want to like relax and have fun and just like hang out, you know what I mean? Like good vibes. If that's what you're looking for, like a place like Twitch is great.
All right, so Anurag, is there a band or an artist that you think people should check out, musically speaking? And it doesn't have to be super obscure, but just something that you would recommend.
Yeah, so I don't know if I mean, okay, yeah. So I'll say that first. I'm a huge Lana Del Rey fan, and then lately I've been getting into Duke Dumont. I had like one or two of his songs, and I like the other day or like a month ago or so, I just like I was on a drive, and I was listening to his music, and I didn't even realize it, but like an hour passed before I had even registered. I was just like listening to everything, taking it all in. He's got some really sweet music out there. But for the most part, what I've noticed about myself is that like I don't actually I don't know if other people do this or not, but I usually have like songs by people and not necessarily like entire albums by people. Like my playlist is only about 150 to 200 songs. So it's not, and this is over the course of like a decade too, right? So it's definitely not like, that long. I used to be extremely picky about a lot of music. I had some weird rules in place, and then like once I started listening more, I was like, yo, you just gotta appreciate music for what it is. Like I used to tell myself like I'm not gonna listen to music with words because they get in the way. Now we know like that's just kind of a crazy thing to say, right? Because like there's so much
Mhm.
power in them. So yeah, those are the two names that I would suggest. If you have any of your own, let me know. I'm down to check new music.
So this is probably one of my favorite questions to ask people, but do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Whoa. Okay. Yes, and it is not what you would think. So this just goes into another thing that I did as a kid growing up here. I actually played the tabla for wow, like thinking about it. I started when I was 5, uh and I stopped around when I went to college, so about 18, so 13, 14 years or something like that, right? And the first CD that I actually ever bought was for just like listening to tabla, like high tier, like like the professional level play, and it belonged to an older Indian artist. His name was Jagjit Singh. It was pretty cool. I mean, my mom definitely had like huge vibes in it. She was like the one that sort of like pushed me towards looking into music and that sort of stuff here. So she was the one who like definitely was like, yeah, we're gonna buy this, and like this and that. And I mean, it's crazy. Like when I obviously like when I was a kid, like I was one of those things where I didn't really appreciate it as much, but now like like I've listened to that CD so much because we'd play it in the car, I'd play it at home. Like now I can like hear it right now, literally, just like the flow, the music, the crazy things you can do with an instrument. Um, yeah, yeah, really good album.
Well, that's an interesting story. Do you keep up with playing at all, or has it been like years since you've played?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, like it's one of those things where like since you've done it for so long, you can never really get it out of your system. So like I'll just be like, reading an article or something, and my fingers will start like moving around. They'll be drumming a little bit, that sort of thing. It's like subconsciously happens. And or when I'm listening to other songs, right? Like I'll just make like a drum beat or whatever it is and play along with that. But nothing too seriously anymore. Yeah, I just like sort of like dedicated most of my time to other things like streaming.
If you could teach magic to anybody, who would it be?
Wow. Okay. So, well, there are a couple of ways to think about this. I could think about it from the perspective of I want to teach it to someone that I would really like to play with, but I think I'm going to use my one time on something a little bit bigger, which is I would want to teach it to somebody who uh, has a lot of influence, and them playing the game would get a lot of other people into the game. So I would probably say like anyone in your like top 10 streamer list from Twitch, it'd be super sweet to do like a legacy league with them and just talk to them about like the intricacies of the game, the format, that sort of stuff. And then that way, hopefully, like, if they pick up on it and, and anybody who follows their content gets to play into it, power to the legacy community. You know what I mean? Like, that would be super sweet if we could make an impact like that.
Okay, so somewhat like of a related question just got me thinking. So I've on this on my channel, I've interviewed several Pokemon players. They're actually on Channel Fireball as well. Toward Redcliffe, Azul, Greco, no Garcia Greco, and Stefan Ivanov. And I asked them, so just kind of like along your line, would you be down to do something like a Pokemon like collaboration where it's like my idea was you kind of like you take a Pokemon player under your wing and you kind of like walk them through like a league on MTGO, and they walk you through like a game, or there's not really leagues, I guess, on Pokemon Online, but something along that lines where it's just like, you have like a pro player like over your shoulder kind of telling you how to do
Yeah, that
stuff.
sounds
Sorry.
like a really good idea. I mean, I've already started doing stuff like that. Like, so one of my channel Fireball series is the quote like the Master Series, where I play matches of any deck with like a respective format expert. So, for example, I've played like TES with Brian Cook. I've played like Dark Depths with Tom Hep, that kind of stuff, right? Where I don't really know. It's impossible to know everything in any given format, and these are people that have like spent like months if not years playing their respective decks, right? So it's almost like when I join a 5 match league with them, I'm learning so much in that short amount of time that just they're just like giving me the wheel so I don't have to reinvent it, right? That would be super sweet to do with anyone in any card game. I know Pokemon lately has like sort of popped off here. So honestly, I should know how to play the game. I remember like, when I was a kid, I would run around with my Game Boy and I'd be playing just like what is it, like the one of the first few Pokemon trading card games or whatever it is that Nintendo put out. That stuff was always fun. My natural progression was just like I picked up Yu-Gi-Oh because of my friend circle, and then after that transitioned to Magic also because of my friend circle. So I'm pretty sure like learning Pokemon is definitely something I do need to cross off my bucket list, just so that I can like a say that I did it, and then B also just connect with like new audiences and things like that for sure.
Yeah, for myself, I was into Magic before, but then I learned Pokemon in the last year, just like randomly, and it's actually a really fun game. And you as a Legacy player, you're gonna love the fact that you can draw so many cards. It's
A
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what
Like
I've
20
seen.
cards, you're just like in standard. 20 cards in standard, you could draw a turn, and just like, oh my god.
Ooh, all right, I'll prepare for that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you'll pick up the game instantly. It's if you play Magic and then you go to that, it's not a hard transition at all. All right, so this is kind of a weird question, but Anurag, if you could travel back in time to any time period, what time period would it be?
Well, uninterestingly, like I always tell myself, dang, wouldn't it be cool if I could have been one of the first few people to um like I don't know, just like invest in something super cool and be like, yeah, like I figured it out, I did it, I made it. But I think like if I wanted to like live through a certain like time period, um, that's actually kind of an interesting question because I I'm so content with like where I am right now that like thinking about like leaving almost makes me feel a little weird. I mean, it's just like I think it would be less about um like going to a certain time period and more so about like doing things in that time. I don't know. Yeah, like I'm not too crazy about like going back in time and doing too much. Maybe I could just like relive my childhood and like what it was like growing up here. Or I'm gonna like flip the question, like see what it's like growing up in this decade. Like rather than like saying yeah. So like if I was like younger, you know like 10 or whatever it is, and seeing what it's like being like a kid in like 2020, just to get an idea of what it's like. I mean, I can probably hear a lot about it, but given like my specific childhood, it'd be kind of interesting to see like how all the just like cultures that are part of my family like interact with 2020, when like you have to be so well not well just like so much more aware of like the world and things that are going on around you compared to like back in the
Yes.
90s when I was growing up. So that would kind of be like an interesting sort of thought experiment to look into.
Another way to look at it is too, like for me, I'm like a big Star Wars fan, so I just imagine myself going back to 1980 and seeing Empire Strikes Back for like the first time, and it ending, and you're just like, what the hell did I just watch? Like,
Yeah,
you know
oh,
what I
that
mean?
sounds
Like,
so
what?
cool. Yeah.
So, is there anything like that? Maybe you would do like some moment in pop culture you might want to see.
Uh, Ooh. I don't know. I feel like I'm the kind of person like I mean there are a lot of movies that for example have had like profound like profound impacts like like when I first watched like Interstellar, or what was it? There was another one, Inception. That one, like I remember like walking out, my mind was blown. Or like movies like Whiplash. Oh God, that was also just a really, really good movie, right? Like there are a lot of instances. Honestly, like there's so many good movies that I've watched that it's hard to like pinpoint. Like there's this exact one that I would want to like, rewind and watch again for the very first time here. So it's hard to nail that down, but those would be like a couple that I would like to see. I mean, Star Wars is actually like a really good one too. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's tough. Very tough. Tough question.
All right, so you mentioned before that you grew up in Houston, you moved to Atlanta for school, then you moved to DC for work, and now you're currently in San Diego. And you also mentioned, well, I don't think in this, but I've heard in another interview that you went to India a lot as well. Can you just like maybe like give me a quick highlight of each of them? Like not necessarily like personally, but just like something great about them.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously growing up, is just like the synthesis for like who I was as a person, how I thought about things. There are specific people in my life that definitely geared and shaped me, like my parents, for example, or some specific teachers as well, that pushed me in the right direction. And then my friends as well, who like, uh, who I would just hang out with. And that's how I got like my primary interest in card games and things like that. When I went to college, it was really just the friend circles. It's just like the people, basically. That's what it feels like, right? And what's kind of interesting about college is like I hung out with all the like a lot of the international students, so I guess there was that sort of like cultural connection that I had there, but also just like these are some of the first few people that I could like really just like let my shields down with and just like really be myself around. And I think that's just the natural environment of college. In DC, you know, first of all, shout out to Bob, happy birthday. But also that's one of my old roommates, Bob Wong. And then I think for that, I think DC is my first time just living by myself and fending more for myself in the adult world. Like, as a kid, obviously my parents were there. In college, technically you're still like sort of sheltered, but this was the first time where like I had to go to the bank and I had to get a credit card, right? I
Mm.
had to, make sure that on my way back home from work and I picked up all my like, groceries and things like that. And, I got to plan for this and that, right? So that was kind of an interesting moment, like where it got real. And in terms of San Diego, so yeah, like another fact is that I was in a long distance relationship with my now wife for about 7 years. So we started dating in 2011, then we moved in 2018. So yeah, perfect, nailed it, first try. um, but yeah, so that marked the end of that chapter, and now when we started living together, and I think it's crazy how I made it this far without living with her, because this is definitely like the best time out of all the ones that I mentioned. In terms of India, I mean, obviously, like that was kind of sweet too, because it was just sort of like this cultural explosion, where just like not just like living, with my family. Obviously, being with my grandparents is sweet. My cousins and everything like that is sweet. But just like the way people there operate, from day in, day out is so different from here, right? Like, yeah, there's some good things about it, there are some bad things about it, but really, like, the people is they're just like so different. Like, like I remember waking up when I'm like, 5 or whatever, and there's someone walking down the streets with like just like 2 buckets of like eggs, and he's just like saying, "Hey, do you want to buy eggs? Do you want to buy eggs?" That's not the kind of stuff that you would see like, day in, day out here, for example, right? So
Mm.
getting to experience all of that, just like knowing that there's stuff outside of my little bubble is a nice little like eye-opening reminder to have, that it's not just wake up, stream, do this, do that, go to bed. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's good to just remember that that's there.
So, Anurag, what's the best place you have visited?
Ooh, best place I've visited. So I actually haven't traveled too much, like outside of India and outside of the US, but in 2018, I guess now, Maham and I, the two of us, we went to Japan for only a week. I wish we were there for longer, and we only went to Tokyo too. So definitely making plans to go back and check out, just all the other major cities and just hanging out there. Honestly, I'd like to stay there for a long time. And it was like easily, hands down, the best trip I've had in my life. Like better than, spring break with my friends, or better than any family trips. Like, I don't know, just being abroad with her, like, it was insane. But then also like everything about Tokyo was so cool, down to like the chocolate croissants we had in the morning. Like to this day, like I will tell her, I'll just like, be like, hey, do you remember those chocolate croissants? And she'll be like, oh, I'm so sad that I can't have them right now. You know what I mean? But then like, it's like, sort of like figuring out like in a country where I don't really know, it's just sort of like you're blinded by all the information. For example, like I can't read Japanese, I can't speak Japanese. So like, how am I going to get around? Right. So like, that sort of experience was kind of cool. It was almost just like an adventure in and of itself. And then like just checking out like all the cool landmarks and like breathing in the air almost, you know what I mean? Like honestly, like that's one thing that I would love to do is just go back, live there for like a month or two. And like I don't even need to do anything. If I could just like be a part of that society for like a month or two, like that would be so cool just to like get that sort of like flavor injected into me. Do you know what you like that I don't know. That's something that I actually look forward to. And I've talked to Maham about that. She was like, "Yeah, let's go to London. London is also pretty sweet." But I was like, "No, we got to go back to Japan sometime because I had so much fun there."
Yeah, I've never been, but I've heard only like amazing things. Everyone who's gone there is just like, you have to go.
Oh, and the food! I forgot to mention the food. Oh wait, no, I mentioned the croissant. Okay, but like we went out to some like really good food places, and even oh, this is crazy. Yeah, I forgot to mention. So I actually met some friends that I made through Magic there, and I got to check out like Haruya and all that sort of stuff. And that was pretty fun. So small world, but like being able to like say like, hey, I know somebody here, who could take me to like a random like mom and pop ramen joint that I would never have found otherwise. That was also kind of like a really like, wow, this is sweet, that kind of moment.
All right, Anna, we're going to switch pace a bit. We're going to do some faster questions, but if you want to stop and elaborate, feel free, okay?
Sounds good.
So, favorite sports team?
Oh man, all right, esports team, because I don't really do sports too much, but I'd say probably TSM now. I'm just a huge Double Lift fanboy. I'll be honest about it. Or Team Liquid, one of those two.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this one, but cats or dogs?
Oh, yeah, dogs for sure. Yeah, I love my dog Honey. I grew up with 3 dogs. I'm a dog person through and through. Dogs are great.
Agreed. Fall or spring?
Fall. Spring also has that sort of not too cold, not too warm atmosphere, but that's going from like cold to hot. I love the hot to cold as it just like sort of like cools down and it gets really nice outside, and the colors are also just so sweet. Autumn is great. Also, my birthday, yes, around there, yeah.
That's fair. Skittles or M&Ms?
M&M's, not a question. I love chocolate. Chocolate is sweet. Skittles, I think the only thing I really like about Skittles is like when I was a kid, I just like put a bunch in my mouth and like make them like into that one like giant like Skittles like abomination sort of thing. Like I could hear them like screaming, "Help me!" No, just kidding. M&Ms are just great. I don't know. I like them. I love M&M minis. Then I think I like peanut butter M&Ms, and then I like regular.
Follow-up question, what's your favorite chocolate bar?
Ooh. Oh man, favorite chocolate bar is gonna be Crunch, but I prefer Bunch of Crunch.
Okay. Okay. One of your favorite movies?
So 12 Angry Men is like my top time favorite, and then yeah, that's 100% my favorite one. Yeah.
Do you prefer a relaxing or an adventurous vacation?
Relaxing. I am a couch potato kind of. I am very good with my own personal space. Um, Kind of just like I don't like schedules and I like doing things on my own sort of thing. Like so, if I go out, definitely want to just like vibe.
What's your go-to snack at a convenience store?
Oh dang. Well, ideally like I wouldn't be eating too much, but I'm not a picky eater by any means here. So for
Okay.
me, it's more of like I'll walk in and I'll see something and I'll be like, wow, yeah, I want that. You know what I mean? But yeah, nothing in particular most of the time. It's mostly like I see it and it catches my attention kind of deal.
Okay. What was your favorite TV show growing up?
So probably Well, when I was a kid, when I was much younger, definitely like the Yu-Gi-Oh animated show.
Mhm.
Obviously, like getting into the cards was sweet, and then that also having a show. Like I remember, like Saturday mornings on WB 39 or whatever, I'd be in front of the TV and I'd be like, all right, let me watch my show, and got all comfy and stuff, and then it was great. I remember that that's honestly why I got back into the game because I remember the TV show. Like that, as most people do. Like I played it when I was younger, kind of deal. So sweet.
All right. What's your favorite Magic card?
My favorite Magic card, it's gonna sound kind of dumb, but it's probably Brainstorm. Brainstorm is just such a powerful card. In terms of favorite artwork, I really like Baleful Strix. I think I don't know why, but the artwork on that card just like speaks to me. I think there was an altar that I saw of like a mosaic, like what is it, like glass painted glass version
Oh
of that
yeah,
card, and that
yeah.
was also pretty sweet too.
All right. Finkel, Kai, and I'm gonna add this one in or PV.
Okay, I'm glad you added PV, and so I'm new age, so I probably would give it to PV, but I mean Kai is also a monster and Finkel is also a monster. That's such a tough question. I think maybe I'm gonna give it to PV just because of my own interactions with not him directly, but his content. Plus, like the dude, didn't he win like best like esports content creator or best esports player for Brazil this year? I think so.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like super sweet too. So got to give him credit for that. Yeah.
What are your favorite Magic sleeves?
I love Dragon Shield sleeves, and in fact, I have. I'm joking. I'm not joking about this, but I could probably pull out 10 packs of sleeves right now in less than 30 seconds. I go through a lot of sleeves, but yeah, the Dragon Shield black mats are easily my favorite. The new ones too, like after they like change their processes and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Yeah.
All right. So, do you remember your first deck that you made in Magic? And if not, maybe just like your first like tournament deck.
Yeah, so the first deck that I made, so when I got into Magic, I was already sort of kicking it off with sort of a competitive mindset because I had played Yu-Gi-Oh for like a couple of years beforehand, and I wanted to win, right? So I immediately looked into the best decks in the format at the time, and I think it was Blue, White, Red, Flash, the list that Jerry Thompson had made. So I'm talking like Agora Bolus, Pillar of Flame, Restoration Angel, all that sort of good stuff. It was definitely a very complicated deck, and I kind of wish I had started off with something a bit more easy. But it's what spoke to me, right? So I picked it up. I lost a lot, and I learned a lot.
So, was there ever a card that, or what's a card that comes to mind that you thought was really good and everyone was like, this is garbage, and vice versa? You thought it was garbage, but it actually turned out to be really good.
Cool. So this one's kind of easy. I basically played so much Miracles that I have time to test like every single card. So shout out to two cards. The first is Palace Jailer. I people did not like that I wanted to play that. It's and then the second is Brightling, which nowadays it wouldn't be good, but back then I thought it was insane and it played out pretty well too. The other way around, I don't know. I mean, I don't typically have like super negative reactions towards cards and the like. I'm mostly like agnostic about it, but I do know that like I do know very like from first hand just experience like testing things out the other way around. It's harder to say from the perspective of not liking a card because I'm kind of just like the spike in me is just like all right, if it works it works. I'm not going to think too much about it because some cards could just be like really good, nobody knows about like those sleeper cards, and so I tend to like save judgment unless it's really bad, but at that point everyone else probably thinks it's bad too. So
All right. So, I think I already know the answer, but maybe I'll rephrase it. So, if you had to play one deck for the rest of your life, what would it be? But I'm assuming it's some sort of miracle variant. So, just let me know what variant.
yeah, that's kind of tricky actually because I feel like oh yeah, it would probably be like the Sensei's Divining Top lists from pre 2017. Honestly, like after the top ban, the shape of miracles changed so dramatically that I can't really endorse any of the lists that have come out, which that's kind of crazy. But yeah, like back then, that was like for me the golden age of Legacy, where I mean, obviously, like my deck was busted. So maybe that's why I see it, with jaded eyes. But that was the deck for me. I had so much fun playing it, and the play patterns and things like that.
Anuraaag, if you could design a Magic card, not saying you had to tell me the exact text, but what kind of card would it be, do you think?
So two ways to go about this. The first is like a practical outlet. I think, and so you can tell I've already thought about this some before, but I really wish that there was a way to take banned cards from the legacy banned list, and then sort of nerf them and then re-inject them back into the format. So, for example, let's take Sensei's Divining Top. Right, that card is banned. Well, what if instead of Sensei's Divining Top, we had like Student's Divining Top, which is like maybe a little bit clunkier, like 2 mana and it costs 2 to activate, but you can still tap it to do, that sort of thing. So that's, or like a nerf Deathrite Shaman, where it's like, I don't know, you can figure out a way to nerf Deathrite Shaman. Otherwise, I think I would make something that is just like egregiously like too powerful, but like very nicely suited in like the Azorius colors. Like when my friend told me about the one idea, which was like, it's just like blue and a white for multimodal, so Swords to Plowshares or Counterspell, something really just crazy busted like that. That would be sweet.
Is there a rule or a mechanic or just some aspect of another TCG, whether that be in paper or digital, that you would like to see implemented in Magic?
Yes, actually, yeah. It's not like a mechanic like Escape or Dredge, but I would really love to see cards getting nerfed in digital form. So this is like, the back end of this is that, like, having now created a bunch of content and like getting into maybe more of like a, what does the esports world look like, right? I really want to know, like, how to make Magic a game that everybody plays and that everybody's interested in playing. And that too requires like fixing a lot of the back end problems, in the sense of like, well, balance issues and things like that, right? So for example, recently Omnath came out, right? And one thing that I really wish we could do in Magic that we can do in like Hearthstone, for example, is like fudge around the numbers for cards. So like Hearthstone, you can make a card go from like casting 4 to casting 5. Magic, it's a lot harder to do that because you're bounded by like paper. Um, I don't yet know the solution to that, but I feel like once we find it, we'll be able to do really, really good things for the game.
And in the next, let's just say 5 years, where would you like to see the game of Magic go?
I want to see the number of people watching the game, and I want to see the number of people playing the game go up. So right now, I think Magic doesn't really compete with, games that might come to mind, like Hearthstone, TFT, all these sort of strategy games that are getting big. And that to me is kind of alarming, just because, I spend so much time playing this game. I spend so much time creating content for this game. And if the future is like dim, I have to ask myself sometimes, like, why am I not just playing those games instead, right? So yeah, hopefully to see those numbers go up, and hopefully to see, like, WotC have a bigger hand in increasing just anything that's sort of like, content creation related, I guess. Yeah.
What's one thing you'd like to do or achieve in your lifetime? And it doesn't have to be exclusive to Magic.
Yeah. That's a tricky question. I don't really know too much about like planning for when I'm 60, for example. Like, there are cool things that I mean, not cool things, but complex things that I could say, like, oh, I want to have like boatloads of money, but that's not even really what I want. I sort of realized that, like, for me now, like, a lot of things that are important are just like peace of mind and like, being happy like day in, day out. So right now, my immediate goal is just like to take my streaming career and be able to do it full time. That would be a really like sweet accomplishment if I could, and then like not have to. So honestly, like, the way I look at it right now is that, my project manager gig, whatever, it takes up less energy. It's a full time job, and it takes up less time than streaming, which is crazy because there's like so much stuff to do in terms of like, prepping video files and streaming every day and like this and that. There's a huge list of stuff, and yeah, I'll leave it at that for this one.
No, that's good. All right, so obviously you're a big advocate for Legacy. So my question is, just anybody who's not playing it, why should they try Legacy as a format or play Legacy?
Yeah, so if you're already playing Magic or any card game for that matter, you probably know why you like it, why it sticks to you, right? Like you like the idea of solving puzzles. You like the idea of outplaying your opponent, right? And I think the thing is the issue with standard, the issue with modern, and then the issue with like other formats besides legacy and to a degree vintage is that the interaction just isn't there. Like you think you might be doing back and forth games playing like, murder on a 4 drop, right? Or, you're holding up absorb for something like that. Well, like things definitely change a significant amount when you play with cheaper cards, more powerful cards. So I definitely think you should give it a go here. I know for me, the first time I cast Brainstorm, I had like 10 cards in my hand. I was like, wow, I have to put two of these cards back. They're all so good. And that's when I knew that Legacy was the format for me. The cards are just so powerful and it's balanced too. I think maybe not healthy right now, but definitely balanced. So you can pick up whatever your favorite strategy is and still have a good time.
And I think my last question will be, what are some words of wisdom you try to live by, Anurag?
Who? Well, I don't know the best way to put it into words, but I can tell you a little bit about my just like my MO, which is to always
Okay.
set the bar high, too high, set it just way too high. And so that way, like generally I'll set it so high that I can never hit it. But what I end up with is the best possible thing that I could have put out, right? So like I'll say like, hey, I want to get like 5 videos out this week. Um, and then maybe I'll only get 3 or 4, but if I had set the goal to 3, then I could have never hit that fourth video. You know what I mean? Like I think for me personally, like it's just like that's what it is, right? Like never settle for mediocrity kind of deal. Just like do the most that you can for what you're passionate about.
All right. So can you just like let everyone know once again where we can find you on Twitch, on Channel Fireball, and like that kind of thing?
Yeah. At UnzidMTG on Twitter, twitch.tv/UnzidMTG on Twitch. And then if you go to Channel Fireball, you'll find me under one of their author pages. You can like probably just Google my name plus Channel Fireball and it'll show up somewhere.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, and it was really cool getting to learn more about you and hearing your thoughts on the game and just, hearing your thoughts on other things as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing this. I know the timing is um, definitely, holiday season, so I appreciate the flexibility. And if you have any questions to anyone else, feel free to reach out to me. I'm an open book. I'll be streaming today, tomorrow, the day after. So hit me up whenever. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more interesting interviews. Leave a comment, leave a like. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next video.